It is that time here again in Ohio. Winter is here. I have just washed and waxed the TSX, which is my daily driver. And now I'm going to undercoat the bottom of the car using fluid film and this gun. Now I'm going to put my winter wheels and tires on, and that's the opportune time to go ahead and undercoat the suspension. Now I'm about to take off the BBS, which are my summer wheels, and put on my OEM wheels, which are now my winter wheels and tires. And while the car was up on jack stands, that is the best time to go ahead and undercoat the vehicle. Now, I don't normally do this in the garage, but being that it's already cold outside because I have procrastinated and waited so long, I'm gonna go ahead and do it inside. And because it is very well lit in here, that's a good time to do a how-to video. Alright, here's my spray gun and my gallon, and of course my respirator, because I don't want to be breathing this stuff in. It's probably not good for you. And looking inside the can here, it has a distinct smell. I don't know the exact words for it, but it's not horrible. And look at that. You see how goopy it is right there. So it's thick, and you want to give the can a good shake or stir before you go ahead and pour it, just to make sure it's all mixed up nice. And here's a dedicated spray gun that I use. I've had this forever. It's from a truck bed liner, so it's made to spray some thick stuff. And I think I set the compressor to about 50 psi, give or take. You don't have to be exact with this stuff. And I don't use this gun for anything else because, yeah, this stuff is not coming out very easily. It's not worth it to clean it out. And a gallon lasts a long time. You know, if I fill this whole gun up, I probably won't even use the whole thing today. So, one-handed. There we go. They make this in aerosol cans too. And I like the gallon because I'm more about doing it myself and saving some money. And a whole gallon is only about 40 bucks. Now I'm going to set up the GoPro here and try and let you see what's going on under the car. And let you know how I'm applying this. I'll go back and narrate because it's going to be loud with the air gun, paint gun going, as well as the compressor kicking on. First thing I'm doing is I'm going all the way under the car and get the hardest to reach areas. That includes up around the exhaust where the tunnel is, and the inside of the subframe edge there. I'm going to call it a regular frame because it's not, but a regular frame vehicle, you'd be doing the same thing. And be sure to get the brake lines and the fuel lines as well, because you don't want those to rot out on you. Pretty much anywhere else there's a seam between where two pieces of metal meet is a great place to spray, as well as inside any open area that you see, such as these holes that I'm going to spray the nozzle into. Anywhere Saul can hide is where you want to spray. And here I go again, just going down this seam one more time where these two pieces of metal meet. Anywhere where you have the factory undercoating, you don't really need to spray, but I like to keep a light coat on there just in case. You don't need to go as heavy as you would on a seam. And next I'm going to go back here by the side skirt and just spray a little bit behind there as well. Next I came around to the driver's side and repeated the process. Again, you see me really getting those brake lines and fuel lines, making sure they're well coated, and you can see where the K-member is attached to the chassis of the car. You got some hardware there, and give them that extra attention. You got some spacing, some cracks in there, making sure that has some fluid film in it. Anywhere that salt can sit and corrode is where you want fluid film.
And once again, make sure you spray inside those holes. Even if you don't get it, spray perfectly inside, having some in there is good because it will sort of disperse and level out over time. And now I'm just going back, getting the suspension, the K-member as well, making sure that I didn't miss any areas. I'm going to make sure I get the top and the sides as well as the bottom, which I did earlier. And once again, spraying inside these holes to get some fluid film inside there. And now I'm getting the top side of the control arm, the lower control arm. And you can see, look at this Coney shock here. It looks pretty nasty, but what that is that's buildup of fluid film. That's probably about, it's actually two sprayings worth. And this stuff just has the dirt stick to it, which kind of helps protect it underneath. It's kind of funny because if you're from Ohio and you have a typical car with the rear quarter cancer, like a 90s import or something like that, and you drive it out to California, I actually have a friend, Steve, who did this. People look at his car like, what is wrong with that car? How did that happen? And you guys out west and down to the south, you take this stuff for granted, but in Ohio, this is what you got to do. If you want your car to stay nice, you got to do this if you're going to drive in the winter. Here I am just getting even the oil pan, kind of like the back side of the engine block and the axles too, because hey, why not? Those things will rust as well. The nice thing about fluid film versus engine oil is that fluid film is not a big deal if you get on your hoses or anything rubber or that nature. It's not going to cause the material to break down as something like oil would. Might as well go up front here and get that compliance bushing so it's easier to replace when it goes bad, as they all seem to do. Don't forget to go in the engine bay and spray a little bit on those battery cables. That'll help those prevent from corroding. And I got those nuts on top of the strut there. Don't want those getting rusty. And anywhere else you see any surface rust, you might as well give it a little squirt down there in those hinges. Got a couple of little brackets with some surface rust I'm spraying up here, and might as well do the hood hinge. I had an EK where the hood hinge rusted itself shut one time, and that was a pain.
Okay, the front end is done. I've done the wheel well, suspension components, any kind of mounts, anything like that that's going to rust. I sprayed the subframe, I sprayed the holes inside the subframe, and I went all along down the chassis, as well as I made sure I got the brake lines, the fuel lines, everything I can get. Especially where there's a seam. Anywhere there's a seam is where salty water is going to sit. I even did a little bit up in the engine bay, anywhere where some rust might begin to form. Now I'm going to throw on my OEM winter wheels, which are actually from a 05 TSX. This is an 06. And I painted these things with some of this custom wrap graphite metallic. and I'm impressed. They look pretty good. So I'm going to throw these on and have this car still look decent during the wintertime, as well as protect the original finish on the wheels. Alright, the front is done. Now we're going to go over here and do the back half.
First thing I'm doing is I'm spraying up around the tunnel where the exhaust was, where I couldn't quite reach from the front. And then I'm going around here in the gas tank, getting all the metal around that, just because there's places for salt to hide in there. There's a random piece of gravel. And then I'm getting all the mounting points for the suspension. Anything you'd ever want to take apart, make sure you spray it so it doesn't get seized together, because that does happen on these cars. You can see it's starting to get kind of foggy in the garage. I stopped and took a few breaks and opened up the doors just to let some of that blow out. I noticed right here it's coming out pretty thick. The tip on the gun was a little bit loose and it must have turned, so I just readjusted that. Now I'm getting a little bit more of a mist, which helps it actually creep into some of these tight areas. And this is just kind of a repeat of the other side, so I'll speed this up so we can get to the next part. And here I'm going over the very rear of the car. I've got some surface rust on that tow hook already, so I'm making sure I get that. And just the areas that are around the muffler and all that. Anywhere where I'm sure salt can go up there and settle. So I want to make sure that I do get some fluid film in there. Now, because I did this inside versus in the driveway, I'm going to have a very slick garage floor. So if you do this in your garage, especially if you got a floor coating, make sure you're very careful because you will slip and fall. So I'm all done with the rear, and this is about what you should be looking like. I went a little bit heavy. After my form and function 2 coilovers rusted themselves together, I always make sure I put plenty on.
And then I'm going to do the door jambs really quick, just the hinges.
Be sure you get the very bottom edge of the door too, because that's always where doors start to rust, and I've even seen this generation of TXXs around here with rust on the doors right there. And I'm not soaking these hinges like I was on the underside of the car. I'm just giving them a little bit of a squirt of fluid film, which helps protect them and as well keep them lubricated.
And that is what I do to keep my daily driver on the road for winter. Thanks for watching.